We're going to talk to Susan Hall now because there is fury as the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, has splurged £2.1 million of taxpayers' cash on woke statues. He has set up a commission for diversity in the public realm, yes, really, and it's meant to enrich the public realm by making statues, murals and memorials more representative of London's population. There are 159 plaques, QR codes and information boards, including a tribute to an anti-slavery campaigner, and 5 rainbow plaques marking people, places, culture and significant moments in London's LGBTQIA histories. So Susan Hall is with us, London Assembly member, Conservative in Harrow. Susan, thank you for joining me. £2.1 million, is this a good use of money?
Well, it's all down to his priorities, isn't it? And quite honestly, I think he's got them wrong. We see today that we've got an 18% increase in knife crime. To me, he should get the basics sorted without all his little pet projects like the £6 million he wasted renaming some train lines. I mean, he has money for things he wants to spend on, and he doesn't deal with the basics. It's a little bit like the Labour government, isn't it? They can't afford some things and they do others. I
don't want to be too London-centric, Susan, because 82% of our viewers and listeners live outside London. But one thing I have noticed as a Londoner, or as an adopted Londoner, I suppose, is there's quite a lot of sort of posters with Sadiq Khan on them. And I don't remember that. Maybe they did exist, I don't know. But when Ken Livingstone was mayor, when Boris Johnson was mayor, you would see Mayor of London things, but you wouldn't see pictures and specific kind of imagery of the mayor. Has that changed over the years?
I think it's got worse, yes. And I mean, he's just about self-promotion. That's all he does, with all his freebie tickets, with his spending money on virtue signalling, when we should be putting every spare penny, in my view, into the Metropolitan Police.
Is it not right, though, that some money is used, Susan, towards things like a sound installation to highlight stories from working class women in the Olympic Park, and a walk of fame, stars on the pavement to celebrate migrant workers in Cricklewood? I mean, is that not something that should be done?
Well, I suppose it makes areas nicer when people are getting stabbed. I mean, let's face it, what's more important? Well, I know what I think is more important, is to actually make Londoners safe. And I'm sorry to your viewers and listeners, I talk about London. I'm a London Assembly member.
Totally get that. And actually, I mean, that brings us on to another story you're going to give us your thoughts on, which is about ULEZ fines, because 2.4 million penalties have been issued since the expansion of Sir Sadiq Khan's flagship policy. That, of course, covers the whole of Greater London inside the M25. And this is relevant, of course, to lots of people right across the country, because there are so many low-traffic neighbourhoods, ULEZ zones and all the rest of it, in so many towns and cities, and many local authorities, councils, essentially saying it is a bit of a money spinner, and clearly lots of money for London.
Well, who does this affect? Does it affect very wealthy people, or does it affect the poorest in our society? And the truth is, it affects the poorest, the people that just cannot afford to replace their cars, need their cars for work. Very often they are shift workers, people that just are on the breadline. And this is who this ULEZ expansion is affecting. And then you look at the prospect of a new runway in London, which on a business side may be good. But I mean, air quality, if he's so obsessed with air quality, what's the third runway going to do? So quite frankly, the ULEZ expansion, if I had become mayor, I would have stopped the expansion straight away, because it does nothing but hurt those that are the poorest in society, and that is wrong.
And tell us your thoughts on the runway.
Well, my thoughts are pretty irrelevant. I know there's been lots of work done on it in the past, and it was not to be seen to be viable. If we've got a mayor that has an obsession with the environment as opposed to looking after people's safety, he will have to try and fight it. But this morning, Rachel Reeves was actually doing the rounds, and it appeared that she seemed to say that he wouldn't be able to fight her on it. So let's wait and see what happens.
But do you think a third runway should go ahead at Heathrow?
On a business point of view, possibly. On an environmental point, probably not. Certainly people all around where I live are not happy about it at all. And I am a representative of the voters. So I'm going to be listening to what people say about it.
Do you think it will go ahead? Do you think it will happen?
I really don't know. With Rachel Reeves, God knows what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. She says, I'm going to do this and that, and something else happens. So almost if she says she's going to do something, you think, well, that won't happen. I honestly don't know. It's been looked up many times, and studies on it have said that it isn't viable, but I don't know what they're working on at the moment.
Okay, Susan, thank you. That's Susan Hall, who's an Assembly member in London there, reflecting on the fact that Sir Sadiq Khan has put £2.1 million of taxpayers' cash on statues and a woke statues commission, and also on the third runway and the ULEZ fines and all the rest of it.